Have you ever made a patchwork shower curtain? Well, today I'm going to show you how to put buttonholes in the edge to hang it up. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, bojagi, and embroidery. So a shower curtain is a really fun project. Now this shower curtain that I've made, this is with my pattern, Easy Patchwork Shower Curtain. This uses 5 different fabrics plus this neutral fabric at the top and the bottom. So today what I'm going to show you is how to add holes in the top for hanging it up. So if you have your shower curtain made, let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is mark 12 equally spaced marks across the top edge of the shower curtain, and that is where our holes are going to go for hanging it. Now you can use a ruler for that, but what I'm going to do is I have my shower curtain liner that I'm going to be using with the shower curtain, and so it already has holes in it for hanging. So I have just placed the shower curtain liner on top of the shower curtain, and I'm using this to mark the holes so that I don't need to use a ruler or anything. I can just use this as a little stencil. Now my shower curtain is slightly wider than the liner, so I do have this end in a little bit, and I'm lining up the top of the liner with the hem so that the fabric shower curtain is a little bit taller. And then I'm just using a water soluble marker, and I'm just going to come in and mark these holes. And I'm marking on the right side, or the front side of the shower curtain. So now that all these spots have been marked, we're just going to go back and finish those. Now you could finish those with a grommet. That's probably the way that your shower curtain liner was finished, and many shower curtains are finished with grommets. And to do a grommet, you would just go buy a package of grommets at the store and follow the instructions in the package to finish those. And that's a little metal circle with a hole in it, or plastic. But I'm going to finish these with a buttonhole, because that is an easy way to finish those with my sewing machine. So before we start doing buttonholes on our actual shower curtain, I really highly recommend that you do a practice, or maybe a couple practices, just to make sure that your buttonhole is the right size, that everything is going to line up and go smoothly. So do a practice before you start doing buttonholes on your final shower curtain. So I have a little scrap of fabric. This is the same fabric that is used in the shower curtain, and I'm going to be using this for my practice. Now, because those buttonholes are going to get a lot of stress on them, we're going to need to stabilize them and add something just to give it a little bit more strength. So to do that, we're going to use other fabric that's the same fabric and use interfacing on that. So this is iron-on interfacing that I just ironed on, but you could also use sew-in interfacing. Just scraps of whatever you have on hand is going to be fine. Just something to give it a little extra sturdiness on the buttonhole that's going to get a lot of pressure. So I'm going to cut 12 little squares out of this, and I'm using pinking shears so that I don't have to worry about hemming them or anything. That'll help finish the edges. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the size, but I want these to be about an inch or an inch and a half square. It's just going to be enough for the buttonhole. So of course, if you are nervous and you don't want to eyeball them, you can always use a ruler and mark the size, and then just cut them out with your pinking shears. But I just want a square about this size, just big enough for the buttonhole. And then I'm going to put it on my fabric And so here's my practice fabric. I have one little test that I've done already. I'm just going to do another test. So I'm going to place my little stabilizing square onto the back of the fabric, and I'm going to have the stabilizer in between the two pieces of fabric. And then to hold that in place, I'm just going to use a glue stick. So you can use a fabric glue stick, school glue stick, whatever. And I'm just going to stick that on, and that will just help hold it in place while the buttonhole is being stitched. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and stitch a buttonhole right on this spot. So on this one, I'm just going to mark where I want the buttonhole to be, and that is right in the middle of my square that I put on. So each sewing machine will do buttonholes a little bit differently. So check the manual for your sewing machine to see how to do a buttonhole. But most sewing machines will do a buttonhole in one piece. You can just set the length, and it will stitch the side, bottom, side, and top. You usually don't have to stitch it manually, so double check your sewing machine manual to see how to do it. Many sewing machines have a buttonhole attachment like this, so you can set the size. You would normally set it with a button up here. I don't have a button in it. I've just kind of set the size manually, and then this will go right in the sewing machine. So I just push a button and it will stitch the buttonhole. So if you have one of those, it's really worth figuring out how to use it. So check your sewing machine, or check with the store where you bought your sewing machine, and then you can see how it will stitch a buttonhole automatically. So here is my practice buttonhole. We can see this one is a little bit high, so I need to practice to get my alignment right. But once I have a buttonhole, then I'm just going to cut a hole in the middle. And be careful not to cut your stitches. And then you can use whatever ring you're going to use and just make sure that that fits in. So this is going to be an okay size of a buttonhole. I know this size will work. I could even go a tiny bit smaller if I wanted to. So do as many practices as you need to make sure that you have the right size, that you can align it right. And then once you're happy that you can sew these consistently, you can align everything right, then you can move over to stitch them on the shower curtain. So now I've done a bunch of samples here on my practice piece, and I'm pretty confident that I can do these consistently. So now on my shower curtain, where I marked, that's marked as a circle. I'm just going to mark that as a straight line right in the middle, just because a straight line is easier to align on my sewing machine. So I'm just going down, and you want this to be pretty visible. So use a water-soluble marker like this, or you could use chalk, or you could use a friction marker, whatever you want, but something that is going to be really visible. And then using my glue, I'm going to glue my little stabilizing fabric onto the back right behind, so I can see that's kind of centered. And then I'll just come along and I will stitch a buttonhole stitch on each one of those points. So once all the buttonholes have been stitched, then you're going to come along, trim any thread ends that there are, cut them open. If the water-soluble marker is still visible, you can just wet that a little bit to get it to go away. And then if you want to trim these little stabilizing squares to make them a little bit smaller, you could do that. You don't want to make them too small because you do want to have it to stabilize the square, but this one I could trim it a little bit more. That's just a personal choice. I could trim that. I could trim this one so it's not quite so high. That's just a personal choice if you want to trim those. But then you're ready to line this up with your liner and then hang it up in your shower. So there it is, hanging it up, and I think it looks really nice. Now this is the Easy Patchwork Shower Curtain, and it's a pattern that's available. You can click the link below to get it, and it is made with reversible patchwork seams. So there's no need for another lining beyond the shower curtain lining. The fabric part is only one layer of fabric. So you can get more information about this project, including lots of other tutorials and inspiration, at my website, epidastudio.com.